everyone, welcome to Whimsical Woodland Garland. My name is Eileen and I'm going to be taking you through our step-by-step instructions. So this is our latest middle art project here at the Portland District Library. You should have already picked up your take and make bag here at the library when you registered for the program. That bag is going to have all of the actual craft supplies that you need to complete the project. But I would like you to grab a pair of scissors. We're going to need that to cut some of the twine to tie everything together. So once you've grabbed that pair of scissors, come back and join me and we'll go ahead and get started. Before we get started with today's actual project, I just want to go over what is in your take and make bag in case you are missing anything. That way you can contact us here at the library and let us know so that we can get you those supplies. So the first thing that you're going to have is a sheet of cardstock with 6 of our different woodland animals. You're going to have this little wooden stick with a pointy edge on one side, so be careful with that. You're also going to have 3 different colors of acorns, and then 2 little balls of twine, and then an assortment of felt leaves. So your colors might not be exactly what you see here, but you should have those kind of mix of things in your bag. And then here I've got my pair of scissors for the cutting of the twine. So you can do this kind of in any order. So I'm just going to give you guys some suggestions and some tips on how to actually put your garland together. But it is completely up to you in terms of what supplies you want to use. So let's say you just don't want to use the acorns, that's totally okay. If you want to use just some of the leaves, that's okay too. If you don't want to use any of the woodland animals, don't use any of the woodland animals. So again, I'm just going to show you kind of the technique on how to put your garland together, and then you can apply those techniques to all the supplies that you see here. You could also, if you have some things at home that you want to add to it, feel free to do that. That's why we love arts and crafts here at the library, because you can add your own spin and your own creativity to the project supplies that we provide you a lot of times. So the first thing that I would recommend doing, if you're going to use the woodland animals, I would go ahead and cut those out. I actually pre-cut everything, so I'm going to move these out of the way. So this is what mine look like. I wanted to cut all the way around all my animals and all their little details, like the antlers and the legs on the deer and that kind of stuff. So I took a lot of time before filming this video to cut those out. So if you want to do as detailed as I did here, or you can just kind of cut a circle around them, you could cut squares around them. It's kind of up to you how you want to cut those out in preparation for hanging them up on your garland. So if you want to cut them out, go ahead and pause the video and take care of that. But what I'm going to do next is, so one of the strings, one of the pieces of twine are to actually tie all of our little pieces together to it so that we can hang it up and have our full piece of fall decor. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just spreading that out on the table in front of me, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lay everything out in the order of how I want to hang it up on my piece of decor that we're creating our garland. So hopefully you can see that. So now I am just gonna literally put everything out in front here in the order that I'm gonna tie them onto the twine. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with, let's see, I think I'm gonna start off with my woodland animals. I get a kick out of these. These are so cute to me. All right, and I think I'm actually going to not use the bunny. I know I cut them out, but now that I'm looking at it, I think I'm going to use the bear in the middle, and then the 2 smaller animals, and then the fox and the deer on the outside. So I kind of like that for how it's going to look. And you might not be able to see my fox. I realize he's not in the shot, but I do have my fox and my deer on the very outside here. And I'll make sure to show you a finished shot of my garland when we're all done. All right, so Now I've got my woodland animals spread out, and I think the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start taking my leaves, and you might have multiple colors of some of the leaves. There's a couple different shades of red, brown, yellow. There's a yellow that's like a little bit more golden than the other. So I'm gonna start just, again, laying them out one by one to kind of see how I want them organized. And again, you don't have to use all of them. You can just use some of them. It's totally up to you how many of the supplies we provided you want to end up putting on your final piece. Okay, so I am gonna go ahead and do that for how I've laid them out. So I've done one leaf on the outside, my fox, 2 leaves, my squirrel, 2 leaves, my bear, another 2 leaves, the hedgehog, 2 leaves, the deer, and then another leaf on the outside. These ones are just extra for me, these 3, so I'm gonna set those aside. Now what I have left is my acorns. So I'm just gonna pick a couple spots here for the acorns to go. I think I'm gonna put one by my bear, and I like the idea of putting one down there and one down there. Now you're probably wondering, what is this wooden stick that I've given you? This is to poke holes in the woodland creatures so that you can actually thread your other piece of twine through it to tie it to our main piece that we've laid out on our table. Now, if you have a hole punch at home, go ahead and use that. But in case you don't have a hole punch, then what I've given you is this stick. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to, and I think I'm actually gonna use the bear's arm to hang him. So I'm just gonna go ahead and poke a hole in his hand. Right, and be very careful with this part. You might have to ask for some help from an adult or an older sibling in your household. And then I think for the squirrel, I'm gonna use his tail to hang him up. And it's totally up to you what parts of the animals you wanna use. For the deer, I think for the deer, I'm gonna use his little backside where he's got the spots on it. All right, and then I've got my fox. My fox, I think I'm gonna hang him, let's see, by one of his, maybe the middle of his head. That'll look nice. All right, and then I've got my hedgehog. I'm gonna do the middle of his back. All right, so I poked holes in all of my woodland creatures, so now I can set aside my wooden stick there. So the last part of actually creating our garland, once we've laid everything out, if we made those creative decisions on where we want things, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie everything together. And what you'll notice is that the acorns already have twine on them. So those are already kind of pre-strung. But what I'm gonna do is I am gonna start with the very center of my garland and then work my way outwards this way and then outwards this way. So this second ball of twine that you had in your take and make bag is to cut little pieces to tie to all of your objects, and then you're gonna tie those objects to that piece of twine that we laid out at the very beginning, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take little sections, like 2 or 3 inches, the length of one of my fingers, and I am just gonna cut, like I said, little pieces. So, and you can do them different lengths if you want your animals and your leaves to hang at different lengths off of your fall decor. So I'm gonna go ahead, and the shorter that you cut them, the trickier it is to kind of tie everything, so just be careful of that. So what I've done is I took my little piece of twine that I cut and I put it through the hole in my bear, and now I'm just gonna tie that to the long piece of twine that I've laid out. So again, the shorter that you cut the little pieces, the trickier it'll be to tie them, so just be careful of that. And so again, the rest of this project is just tying everything together. So this part will take some patience, but the end result is going to be something super cute. So now you'll notice that because the acorn is already threaded on a piece of twine, you have a couple of different options. You can either take it and thread your entire long piece through the hole and just kind of have it dangling. I'm actually going to try to tie it right in place by looping the acorn through the hole and then pulling tight. So that's how I would suggest doing it, because then it just stays in place. And I'm going to pull tight. All right, so that's my acorn. Now, with the leaves, you've got a couple of different options. You can tie the twine kind of around one of the pieces or the stem, so it's really up to you where exactly you want to tie the twine. I'm going to use the stem on all of them. The stem is a little bit fragile, so just be a little bit careful as you're doing this part. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to take a piece of my twine and cut it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tie it right to the stem. And this one I'm gonna knot. I'm gonna put a knot in it, just one single knot. And then, again, I'm gonna just tie it right to my long piece of twine that we laid out earlier. So I like the way that that looks. I like how all my pieces are gonna stay nice and tight, whereas if you wanted to do them a little bit looser, you can move them later on. So then I'm just gonna keep doing, again, the same thing over and over until all of my pieces are fully attached. So I'm gonna tie my twine, my little piece, to the stem on my leaf. And then I'm gonna tie my leaf directly onto that long piece of twine. And if you want, you can cut off the excess. I really like the way that it looks. I think it looks a little bit more rustic if you just leave it on, but it's up to you. Again, you can make some decisions here with this craft project. And now I'm gonna thread this through my hedgehog. And then I'm going to tie him directly there onto my string or my twine. Okay, so I've got that. Okay. And then I'm going to work my way this way a little bit, so I'm going to move some of those things over. And I'm just going to keep cutting my twine for my leaves, tying them to the stem. And then tying them to my other really long piece. All right, so the ones for the leaves, I'm finding out I can do a little bit shorter. So depending on how you're doing it, just adjust your twine length that you're cutting. Right. And then let's see, so now I'm gonna hang up my squirrel. The other thing that you could do that I just realized is you can actually thread your really long piece of twine right through the holes that you put in the animals if you wanted them to be hanging directly from that piece. Things I didn't think of beforehand. now I'm on to another leaf. And I think I'm about halfway done already. So again, yours will take a little bit longer if you choose to cut out all your animals, since I did that ahead of time. Next acorn, which again, what I'm doing is I'm just laying it out and looping my acorn through the piece of twine that's already attached to it, and then pulling tight on there. Okay, so I have 2 more leaves and my fox to attach on that end. I am very excited about the way that this is looking. That's my favorite part about doing arts and crafts, is when you really start to see the finished product coming together. All right, now I'm gonna hang up my fox. I think the fox is probably one of my favorite of these animals. I also really like the hedgehog too, though. He's pretty cute. All right. And again, if you are having a hard time with some of the tying of the things, go ahead and just ask either an older sibling or a caregiver, an adult in your household, to help you. And as always, just make sure to take your time. There's really no rush in doing any of these parts to this project. Oh, realized I was off camera a little bit there. Okay, so I am completely done with one side. I started the other side, so now I'm gonna kind of go back and move everything down. So I've got 3 more leaves, 1 of my acorns, and my deer left to attach. So here we go. Fall is one of my favorite seasons. I love when the temperatures start to get colder. I love all of the fall colors that we get to see here in Michigan. When all the leaves start to change color on the trees. You can already start to see it happening a little bit outside as the temperatures have dropped a little bit, although I think it's supposed to get a little bit warmer again here soon, and then get colder as the month goes on. All right, so almost. There we go. All right, 1 more of my animals and then 1 more of my leaves. Okay, just 1 more leaf and then I will be all done. Okay, so I have tied together all of the parts that I've decided to use for this project. So there's one end, and you can see all of my animals, my little acorns, all the different colored leaves that I decided to use. So in the next shot, I'm gonna show you the completely finished product so you can see exactly what I did up close. all so much for joining me today for our Whimsical Woodland Garland project. I hope you had all sorts of fun putting together your new fall decor. I would love to see any videos or pictures of you creating your project or your final product that you're going to hang up somewhere in your bedroom. So send those along to the email address coming across your screen now, and we'll see you next time here at the Portland District Library for another Middles art project. Bye for now.